Hello, everyone. Real quick, we're just going to go through, we're going to do really just the second part of 7.2. Just a reminder, we are going to do a quiz tomorrow going over 7.1 and 7.2. We'll do 7.3 has a little bit of new information. We'll do that right before the quiz. If you know how to do the multiplying stuff, it's pretty much exactly like that. So nothing really to worry about, and the quiz will be pretty quick. And then we'll just keep moving right along with chapter 7. All right, so we're adding on a little bit more to 7.2. Really, the only difference with these types of problems is instead of two binomials, now we have a binomial and a trinomial. So remember, binomial, trinomial, that just has to do with the number of terms that we have. Okay, we have two terms and then 1, 2, 3. And sometimes the order is going to be flipped. Like we can have 3 terms and then 2. And I'm not going to give you any problems like this, mostly just because they're kind of long and tedious, but you can have a trinomial times a trinomial or any number of terms. It's just that the amount of time that it takes to do each one of those problems goes up and up and up. So we're just going to do binomials times trinomials. If you know how to do that, you can really do anything, right? The thing about adding that extra term in one of your polynomials, it increases the difficulty a little bit because we have a couple more terms we have to deal with. One of the main mistakes that people make when they're doing this type of problem is they think, oh, awesome, I'm going to go back and I'm going to use FOIL. I'm going to show you how that's going to mess up your problem if you say, oh, cool, I'm just going to do FOIL. Let's look over here at 21. Let's say I said, all right, cool, I'm going to FOIL. I'm going to go first, outer, inner, and last. Okay, do you see the problem here? You're totally ignoring this little negative h in here. Okay, that middle term, if you just try and do FOIL, that middle term totally just gets ignored. Okay, you'll get a completely wrong answer there. Okay, something to remember with FOIL, okay, it's only for a binomial and a binomial. Okay, 2 terms by 2 terms. Right? There's a couple different ways we can attack this. So let's try, first off, let's do the one that's most similar to FOIL, because I think most of us like to use FOIL. But instead of thinking FOIL, let's think more like I'm distributing. Okay? I'm not just distributing the 1, I'm not just distributing the h, but I want to think of it like I'm distributing the h to each one of these 3 terms. And I'm also going to distribute the 1 to each one of these 3 terms. Okay? I've seen this called the shower method too, because it's like you're showering the h to all of these terms and the 1 to all the terms. Okay? So every term has to get multiplied by every other term. All right? So let's go just term by term and do that. It doesn't want to erase, right? So we've got h times h squared. If you get stuck on these, think of this like h to the first power, okay? You're adding those exponents up, so you're going to get h to the third, okay? And then h times negative h. Well, I know h times h is h squared, so that's just going to be negative h squared. Okay, this is really when you get tested on all your exponent rules and sign rules and all that fun stuff with multiplication, right? And then h times negative 1, I'm going to get negative h. Right? Then moving on, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do that with the 1 as well. This math is working out pretty easy. I just get to use 1. All right, so 1 times that h squared. Okay, that's just going to be h squared. 1 times negative h is negative h. I'm kind of running out of room. And then 1 times negative 1, I get negative 1. Right? And just like when we were doing FOIL, all that stuff we were doing last week, you don't want to leave your answer like this. You want to combine any like terms that you have. That's where this one is a little bit trickier than just two binomials. Usually you'd have like maybe one term to combine, but here you have a couple more. Again, I really want us to try and get in that habit of starting from the highest exponent on down to the lowest. The more you're just in the habit of rearranging things into standard form, the easier your life is going to be. Okay, so just kind of make it a habit. I only have the one h cubed term. Okay, h squared. Look at that. I've got a negative and a positive h squared. I've got a negative 1 and a plus 1. That's just going to cancel out. If I really wanted to, I could write 0h squared and then erase, but I'm just going to not put anything because they canceled each other out. All right, then a negative h and a negative h. Be careful, don't think you're canceling this one out, right? I've got negative 1 and negative 1. That doesn't cancel out. That gives me negative 2h. Stuff like that is probably the easiest thing to mess up, okay? This one and this one cancels, but these two are going to add up to negative 2. Okay, so just be super careful with signs and all that stuff. That's really the easiest way to mess up this type of problem. Right? And then just one constant, negative 1. And there I go. I've got my final answer there. Everything is combined that I can combine. I'm good to go. Now, something else, especially if the grid method or the table method, whatever we want to call it, if that was your preferred method last week, I'm going to basically guarantee that it's going to be your favorite method this week because these problems are a little bit even more complicated than before. All right, so I'm going to show you how I would probably do a grid method with one of these. All right, so again, you've got 1, 2 terms here and 1, 2, 3 terms here. So your box is going to look a little bit different. You're not just going to make a 2 by 2 box like we did last week. We're going to make a 2 by 3 box. Okay, where the 2 terms go here and the 3 terms go here. You could also do like a 3, wow, that one's really ugly. A 3 by 2 box, okay, where the x squared, x negative 1, and then x minus 2. It's really all down to personal preference, how you'd prefer to write it out. Whatever fits best on your paper or whatever makes sense to your brain. Obviously, it's the same either way as long as you line everything up correctly. Okay, and then on the outside here, you're going to put all your terms. Okay, a lot of people who don't even necessarily prefer grid method when we're just doing those more simple FOIL problems, a lot of people switch once we start doing all these trinomials and stuff because it's just, they think it's an easier way to kind of organize all this information. All right, so let's go for it. We've got an x and a negative 2. I always like to just be really careful whenever I have those negative signs to include those right next to the number so we don't forget about it. Right. X squared, x, negative 1. Okay, so I'm just going to go on down the list. I'm going to multiply everything I've got. All right, so x times x squared. Okay, remember you're adding up the 1 and the 2, so x to the 3rd power. Okay, negative 2 times x squared. I've got negative 2x squared. X times x I know is just x squared. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, or just negative x. And then negative 2 and negative 1, I get positive 2 here. Okay, I've got all my terms. I'm going to write them out. Some people like to combine them kind of as they're in this grid step, but I usually will forget to do that. So I'm just going to write out all my terms. I've got x cubed, negative 2x squared, x squared, negative 2x, negative x, and positive 2. And as I'm looking at this, it's kind of worked out pretty nice where all of my terms are already kind of in standard form, so it's going to be really easy to combine everything. They're right next to each other. It won't always work out that way, but sometimes it does. All right, so again, I've got only the one x cubed term that's going to go right here. And then I've got 2, so a -2, a +1. I'm going to have negative x squared, -1x squared either way. Okay, -2x, -x, so -3x. And just that one constant, so +2 + 2. All right. So the process is really the same as what we were trying to do last week. It just takes a little bit longer because we have those extra terms. We've got a little bit more combining of like terms to do at the end. But again, once you can do this process with the binomial and trinomial, you can really multiply any number of terms together. All right. That is really all I have for you guys. You have a fairly short homework. I think it's maybe, 6 problems, 7 problems, something like that. And that's going to be it for today. Make sure you're studying hard. You understand all this stuff that we've done so far this trimester because we're going to quiz on that tomorrow. And I'll see you guys later.